Welcome to Dyslexia Jewels, a podcast that is inspirational stories of children and adults with dyslexia. And I am here today with my beautiful co-host, Meredith Pope.
Hi, nice to see you ladies. I am so excited to be here too. I love talking about dyslexia, especially in October, because October, as we all know, is Dyslexia Awareness Month. And Jayne and I are doing all we can to get the word out of dyslexia and share inspirational stories. One young lady who's very special to me, who we are going to talk to today, her name is Presley Garland. Welcome, Presley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Presley and I met through pageantry. She is the pageant girl at heart. She's never done a pageant before, but I'm trying to change that. And we met through pageantry, and I am excited of where this young lady is going. Presley is a very well-known and respected horseback rider in Georgia. She's nationally sponsored. She has so much going for her. One thing we have in common is that we are living with dyslexia. Presley, tell us what it was like for you when you first were diagnosed. Tell us a little bit about that part of your life.
It was a very rocky road, I will say. It was a struggle, definitely. I was first officially diagnosed 2 months into the 5th grade. It was actually brought up to us that I could possibly have dyslexia in the 2nd grade, but we just kind of never really followed up with it. And then that's when I really started to struggle, was in the 5th grade. And so I was actually going to a private school during that time. And then it just hit. And I struggled really bad with anxiety, the dyslexia. It was just all at once. And we were all trying to figure out what was going on.
A lot of children have anxiety when they have dyslexia because, again, you don't figure it out. You don't know, why is my brain taking just a little longer to get those neurons together? They don't teach us that, and it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
What type of that's a lot to go through, and especially if you were already seeing those things earlier than your diagnosis. How were you handling things emotionally? And how too were other kids treating you? Were they treating you any differently or anything like that?
They weren't necessarily treating me differently. They just couldn't understand. You know what I mean? And so I was just like, I would sit out in the parking lot in the car with my mom, just full panic attacks, like bawling. The teacher, it was a fight to get me out of the car. And we couldn't figure out why until I was officially diagnosed, but it was not fun.
And tell us a little bit about how that affected your mom. How was she handling it at that point?
It was stressful for everyone in my family. Like my mom and my dad, they couldn't figure out how to help. And that's just what was so stressful for them, is because they saw me struggling and they couldn't figure out how to help it.
Exactly.
When you were on your diagnosis day, tell us a little bit about what that was like when you got that knowledge, and how was it explained to you?
It was explained as, honestly, I felt relieved when I was diagnosed and we figured it out, because then I knew that was another step with just how to help. And it was explained that it is a struggle. It is something, but you can live with it. It's not something that's just completely life-ruining.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your education right now. How are you doing in school, and what is your day-to-day schooling like with dyslexia?
Well, I just started this year. I've been homeschooled since, I was diagnosed. And I just started this year to where I go once a week, and it's a classical homeschooling. So you go into the class and you have that, full day with classmates and teachers, and then they send you your assignment sheet and what you do, and you just do it all at home. And It's been a lot of help because when I did the fully online, just trying to manage that, that was hard for me.
Right.
I would just get behind and get more behind. But now I actually had this little trick and I put sticky notes. And so I have one side like on my fridge or something, and I have one side it's completed and one is like assigned. And so as I go, I just move them over.
Yeah.
That keeps me in line.
I love that. I always say that I wish I had invented Post-it notes because I would be rich. Because as a dyslexic, I use, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always say I'm one Post-it note away from losing my mind. So
Yeah.
we love them.
So share a little bit, since your diagnosis and you being able to get, the remediation and the help that you need being dyslexic. Tell us a little bit, what things are like today for you.
I still struggle every day. Like I'll have to reread and reread, and I really struggle with memorizing and just trying to process. It takes me a little bit longer. So I just know ways that I always have a highlighter. Anything I read, if I even think that it might be important, I highlight it. Yeah. I've found the ways that really work for me, and I've stuck with them, but it's different for everyone. So I mean, you could give someone tips and it might not work. Like I've had many people give me tips. I'm like, this just doesn't work for me, but it works great for them.
Right.
It's just finding, it's like testing and then finding and just really seeing what works.
So if you had to give some advice to the young people out there, boy, girl, young people who are newly diagnosed or are already diagnosed and are living with dyslexia, what advice do you want them to know more than anything?
This is just one thing that makes you even cooler. Like it's not something that you have to be ashamed of. Like own it. Go out there and just like it makes you think harder. It makes you stronger. It's really something just to embrace, and it gets easier as you learn how to deal with it and how to process everything. But don't be ashamed of it. If you get something wrong, oops, oh well, just try again. It's really just something that just makes you honestly better. Not necessarily better, but just makes you stronger.
I love it. I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's so beautifully said. It does make you stronger. And I was hoping too that you could share just a little bit before we end today about, being dyslexic. One of the things that I love the most is that it does make us highly creative in so many other ways. So, and I know it's so important to have things that you love to do and that you do well, because that helps to grow your self-esteem. So can you kind of share in your life what that is for you?
Well, the horses and now starting pageants, it's really just boosted my confidence. I found something that I can really succeed at and that I'm passionate about. And if you find that thing and stick to it, you're good. You're good to go. And you'll find different ways to just be completely different. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you can just be like stronger and be more creative and be loud if you want to. Just find what makes you happy. And I found that with my horses and now the pageants, and I'm just, yeah.
Well, I know we're going to see amazing things from you. You've already accomplished so much, and you're such an inspiration to all the young girls around Georgia. And now around the United States. And I am so happy that you came into my life. And I'm so happy that Jayne is here too with me. We have big mountains to move, and I'm thrilled.
I'm very excited. Thank you. I've loved working with you and doing the podcast. It's been so much fun.
Many more to come.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. And I just want to thank you for being real and being honest, because one of the things that a lot of children do struggle with dyslexia is they want to hide because they do feel ashamed. And, maybe they haven't quite experience that dyslexia, it's not a bad thing.
Not at
It's a
all.
good thing,
Embrace it.
just like you've discovered. And I know that that's going to inspire a lot of children, and it's inspired me. So thank you so much for being our guest, and we wish you all the luck in the world. And
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
you are so welcome. We want to thank you all for joining us today for our podcast, Dyslexia Jewels. And we're very thankful for this precious jewel for being with us today. So please keep an eye out for our next podcast next month. Thank you again.